Hey guys, and welcome to episode 9 of Surgan's Feed the Beast Let's Play Season 3. I'm sitting down here in my basement, and if you notice, there's no engines. I took them out. I was running the 4 AC electric engines, and it was producing roughly about 500 kilowatts per second. But I found something on the forums that's going to generate a lot more power, and I figured I'd go ahead and show you guys. Now, we're going to need a machine that we haven't used before. Well, we don't need it, but I'm going to use it anyway. It's the way that it was done in the forums. And I'm going to pull that up here. The person that had put it up on the forums is Camiro Dragon. Just wanted to give it a shout out for him for coming up with it. So what I'd like to do is create basically a perpetual motion machine. So the item that I'm going to use that we haven't used before is a way to transfer energy, and that is the belt hub. Pretty easy to make. Let's go ahead and make one. Let's see here. Let me pull up RotaryCraft, and we want to make a belt hub. Let's see where it is. Right here. So what we need is a couple base plates. Those are pretty easy. And looks like we already have 2. That's all we need. And a couple of steel and a hub, which is just a gear, a shaft core, and a shaft bearing. And the shaft bearing is just some ball bearings around steel. So let's go ahead and make one of those. So there's our shaft bearing. We have a gear. And because I took away our electric engines, we have a shaft core that we can use. Now you can use a magnetized shaft core. So we'll put this here, the bearings, and the gear. And there we go. We get a hub. And all we have to do is throw the hub, the 2 base panels, and 4 steel ingots. And we get 2 belt hubs. Now I already have 2 because we're going to need 4 for this. We're also going to need a golden flywheel. Now, you guys seen me make iron flywheels before. It's basically the same thing, only with gold. And let me show you here. You take a mount, which is basically, we've made a couple of them before, and a gold flywheel. So it's just some gold around a gear. I've already made it. I actually recorded this segment earlier, but for some reason the audio was messed up. So I'm doing it again. So we have the belt hubs, but we're also going to need some belts. And I only have 2, and I need 4. So to make belts, you just take an ingot of steel and surround it by leather. And that'll give you 2 belts. So let's go over here and put it all together. We have some of the things that we had before, like I have my iron flywheels, I have a couple of industrial coils, my redstone clock, a bevel gear that I just happen to have in the chest, a couple of steel shafts we made before, and a shaft junction or 2. Also some dynamometers so that way we can see the output and compare it to what we were doing before. So the first thing that I want to put down is my belt hub. And I want to put one here and one here. And then I'm going to skip 2 blocks and put one here and one here. These need to be turned around. So basically, if we look, we have these 2 connecting right here, these 2 right here. And what I want to do is I want to put down an industrial coil that has some charge. It does need some charge, so even if you charge it up with a DC engine, you can start out with this. I have actually was talking to Pyrostasis, and I was invited to his server, and within the first couple of hours I was able to get this set up with just a couple of stacks of iron after I converted it over to steel. And I used a DC engine to actually wind up my industrial coil. It's really cool. So we just place our industrial coil down that has a little bit of charge, and our golden flywheel. And there's a reason that I'm using the golden one. And that's because the iron ones, while they only have a certain amount of speed that they can go, if we look here, the iron ones can go faster, but they can't push as much torque. At least not with this setup. I think Reka had seen this on his forums and tweaked it a little bit, because in 1.06 I was able to produce about 10 times as much as I am in 1.07. So there must have been a hot fix for it. So here's our setup so far. We have a belt hub, industrial coil, gold flywheel, and another belt hub. And that's the first line. And you want it to go in this direction. You want it to, the energy needs to flow in, this direction, towards that wall. So to make the energy flow that direction on this belt hub, we shift, right click, and that now it's outputting that direction. Right? Otherwise it was inputting. The green is input, red is output. So we have that. Now we need to go this direction on this line. Well, same thing. Shift, right click. Now it's outputting that direction. And what we want to do here is I'm going to go ahead and put a dynamometer, just so I can see what kind of power is coming out. The next thing we're going to want is a shaft junction. And I'm going to place that right here. Now, by default, shaft junctions, when you place them down, are set up with 2 inputs, the 2 greens, and 1 output. Well, we want to change that. So we shift, right click with the screwdriver, and now it has 2 outputs and 1 input. But it's not facing the right way. So we want to turn it until we get like this. So our input is coming in this same direction, and it's outputting right here. But it's also outputting this direction. And we'll get to that in a second. Now, to make this a loop, we need to take our belts and right click on one, right click on the other. And the way that belt hubs work is they can connect in a plane, right? So a straight line, if you will. So I can put one here, and I can connect it way down here with belts if I wanted. Or I can put it here, and I can connect it way down this direction, all the way up to 64 blocks, right there, as long as it's in a straight line. Now, the same is true for vertical. I can put one here, and then I can put another one there. It's still a straight line. So as long as you're within a straight line and it has line of sight, you can put them within 64 blocks. So if I really wanted to, say from here, I can tell my power to go right here and then run across the ceiling if I wanted with belts. That would be really cool. So we have this one connected. Let's go ahead and connect this one here. So now we have a full loop. And we just need to get it jump started. From my testing, what I've found is here I want to set the output speed to 1014, or 1410, sorry. And the reason that I'm doing that is because if you look here at the flywheels, the gold can only take 1410 rads. So we don't want to go over that, otherwise it'll explode. For the torque, we want to do 4096. Now that might seem like a weird number, but the reason is because I think Reka had set this up so that if it's connected in this way, you cannot put more than that much torque. If you use their flywheels for other applications, I have seen it work with more torque. But for this application, it just won't. And last thing I need, let's go ahead and open this up here, and I need to put a redstone signal for this industrial coil. But remember, industrial coils can only input or output. They can't do both at the same time. So it wouldn't create a loop. It would stop when it hits the industrial coil, unless we use something that only pulses. So it'll output in a burst, and that's where the flywheel comes in. The flywheel's going to keep it going. Right, and then for the most time, it's going to be able to input energy. So I'm going to throw this down, and it should get started. Let's go ahead and close up the wall because we don't need it open anymore. Now if we notice, the speed is right, but the torque keeps wigging out, right? And the reason for that is the industrial coil with this little pulse can't get our flywheel up to speed with just that little pulse. So what we need is an actual redstone signal to get it going. So if I hit it with a redstone signal just for a second or two and then stop, we can see now the flywheel got its torque that it needed and is now happy. So we're putting out 5.7, 5.6, it keeps fluctuating, and that's just because of the flywheel. Megawatts. That's about 20 times what we were producing before. And if you notice, there's no engine. And if we look here, this is actually gaining power. A lot of power. So what we can do from here is we can go ahead and put another flywheel right here. And then I'm going to go ahead and do a shaft junction here, because this basically what I want to do is I want to send most of the power down this line. And if I just put here, I'll set up this first. If I do my industrial coil, we can see we should be, yeah, I was running into this problem earlier. I needed a shaft because for some reason it wasn't working right off of the flywheel. So if I put now, do I have it turned the wrong way? There it goes. So it's going up. It's just not very fast because we have so much energy stored in it already. And this is still going up. Well, we don't need it to go up that fast. I mean, it's a loop. This is not the one that we need charged. That's the one we need charged. So what we can do is we can tell it to send 7 times as much power this way as it does around the loop. And if we look, this will slowly still gain power, just not as fast. And if I come over here, this one's now gaining power a lot faster. And so what I'd like to do is I'd like to see how much power we're actually gaining. So let's go ahead and throw down another dynamometer, and you can see that we're gaining about 5 megawatts in this direction. So let's go ahead and throw our industrial coil back down. Yeah, see now it's going pretty fast. We're gaining a lot of juice. Now, this is really nice because I can use this as a charging station. And I can just put an industrial core here, which we have a couple now because I had 4 of them along with the AC engines. Let me go sleep through the night. Okay, as I was saying before we were interrupted, we can use this as a charging station, but if I leave it just like this setup, then what I'll have to do is I'll have to take this coil to charge this one here that's running our extractor. And I really don't want to have to pick this up just to put it right here, just to push the energy into this one to use it for our extractor. Doesn't make much sense. So what I want to do is I want to split this power. And I just have another shaft junction. And if I throw that down here, and again, we're going to tell this dual output, just a single input. And I'm going to turn it so that it faces this way. So now, we're still putting just about all of the power this way. And we just need to connect this up. So what we want is a bevel gear, just to turn it. And I'm going to do orange and yellow. So orange is our input, yellow is our output. Looks like it's already set that way. Why is it not turning then? Oh, it's yellow and orange. The colors are kind of... You have to look at, see the line. It's kind of weird. It's that little strip right there. See, that's orange, and that little strip is yellow. And the only reason that it looks like it's orange on this side and yellow on this side is because of the green box and the red box are kind of messing with the colors. So we want to flip this around. We want it to be yellow and orange. There we go. Now it's spinning. So if I put a shaft junction here, we should start to split the power. I'm going to go ahead and tell it to do even. So there you go. So we're getting 2.5 megawatts per side. Now, this industrial core right here, we're probably not going to need as much eventually. Once we get this nice and charged up to where I don't have to worry about my extractor, then what I'll do is I'll set it to a 3-to-1 inline. And that means what will happen is for every 1 power it sends this way, it will send 3 this way. So that way we're use this as a charging station, and this will be our stationary one just for the extractor. So why are we generating making a charging station? Well, I'd like to start getting into some automated mining. And not just automated mining. Maybe automated farming. And automated other things. And with this mod, or with this mod pack, RotaryCraft is the easiest way to do that. And it's also pretty fun. So, we can let this charge up. And if we go upstairs, there's one thing that I wanted to do. Actually, a couple things that I wanted to do. One, I want to flip this on. Because I don't have a lot of ore in here, but I want it to just process through so it's not just sitting there. I have the power downstairs. We kind of have a setup for me to deal with when I'm manually mining, but if we have huge amounts of resources coming in, we don't have the setup for it. The other thing that I'm running into is I've had to start putting stuff in block form because I'm running out of space. So I don't really want to have to deal with that either. And you can see here, I'm really running out of space. I have a whole bunch of Vintium dust. If I come over here, I haven't emptied this because I really don't have any place to put it. And if we're going to start processing ores, we need to have some place for it to go. I mean, all of my chests. Wow, this one's not so full. And the mobs drops. It's getting there. Let's see. Carrot. So let's get into another mod that'll help us out with some storage and automation. And anybody that's played Feed the Beast before will love what we're about to do next. Applied Energistics. So Applied Energistics is basically a computerized sorting, crafting, processing, storage mod. It's really awesome. And the basics that we're going to need is first an ME controller. It looks complicated, but once you really get into it, it's really not. So we're going to need a couple of Fluix crystals, which is a Certus quartz, redstone, and nether quartz. That's easy enough. I'm going to go ahead and grab these, grab some redstone. Just a little bit extra here. And we need some nether quartz. Where is nether quartz? So let's go ahead and make 4 of those. So we have 4 of those. And we're also going to need an advanced ME advanced processor, which we have to craft and then smelt. So we need some silicon. Well, silicon can be made a couple of ways. We can use the Certus quartz dust. I don't like to do that. Nether quartz dust. Well, nether quartz is a lot more common. Let's go ahead and do that. Now, to make nether quartz dust, all you need to do is throw a little bit of nether quartz in the pulverizer, and you get 1 for 1. So 1 nether quartz equals 1 nether quartz dust. You can also throw it in the grindstone, or you could probably throw it in the crusher. There we go. We have a little bit of silicone. There's one more tool that we're going to need. And you can see that here. It's the quartz cutting knife. You use a little bit of iron, some sticks, and Certus quartz or nether quartz. I don't like using Certus quartz. And it's just because the nether is full of nether quartz. So let's see if I have some sticks. I don't. That's okay. Do I have any? There we go. So sticks. I'm going to make 2 of these just because I don't need to, because they last a little while, but I know eventually I'm going to use them. So I have 2 quartz cutting knives, and I just need a diamond. So now I should be able to... Why did it not go through? Diamond, silicone, redstone. Advanced processor assembly, and we just need to smelt this up. So in order to even start this, at least with this mod pack, which I believe the recipes are harder with the Horizons mod pack, most likely because of the extractor. Just to get this started, you have to use a diamond. And we have the iron. We should be able to ME controller. Now the ME controller requires power. So since we're generating an excess of RotaryCraft power, I wonder how hard. You know what? I'm going to split this once more right here. Let me get another shaft junction. And another bevel gear. Just one. And what I'm going to do is go ahead and cut right in here. And I'm going to set up the bevel right here, so it's going to go in yellow, out blue. There we go. And we're going to set our ME controller. And then right here, I'm going to break this and put down our shaft junction. And again, I'm going to shift right click so it has two outputs, one input, and get it to go this way. So that's filling up really fast. Let's see if I do... Wow, that's really filling up. I wonder how much this thing can handle. Okay, it doesn't look like it can hold more than 130 kilowatts. So we really don't want a lot going that direction. Let's do... Yeah, let's do most of it going this direction. So you can see here, we're just splintering off just a tiny, tiny bit. But now we have our AE system at least started. So the other thing that we're going to need is a place to store our items. Now, I've been using chests upstairs, so I really don't want to use an ME chest. What I'd like to use is an ME drive, which is just a chest, and I need some basic processors. These are a little bit easier because they're only made with gold instead of a diamond. So let's get a couple of those made up, and I do happen to have plenty of gold. Okay, so I'm gonna make, you know what, I'm gonna make a whole bunch because these basic processors are used for a lot. So while that's finishing up, we can get a little bit of redstone and get these cooked up. And while that's doing that, I'll just make at least the one that I need. Or two. A little bit of gold and some redstone. So we have basic processors, and we're going to need two of them, I believe. Yep, two of them, a chest. That's easy enough. Two pieces of glass, and we're just going to need a chest. Now, just like the diamond ones, these also need to be cooked up. And while that's cooking, I'm just going to make the rest of them. ME drive. Now, what this is it's just like the chest. And I'll go ahead and make a chest so that way I can show you exactly what they do. So I'm just going to put the ME drive right here, and you can see that there's 10 slots for something. I'll get into that here in a little bit. You know, just for demonstration purposes, and I'll get rid of it, I'm going to spawn myself in one. Because I really don't want to use my resources, because I'm not going to keep it. Now, if you put down the ME chest, you can look into it, but you can't put items into it, right? They just don't go. What you need is something in this slot. And what those are is they're storage disks. So we have 1K storage disks, 16K storage disks, 64. So let me show you how these work. Let's just get a 1K. And again, I'll go ahead and make this for real. I'll delete it after I show you. And what you can do is you can put it in here, but it won't work by itself. What we need is a little bit of power. So let's go ahead and just pick it up and or take it down to where we have power. It also needs an ME controller. So in this case, I'm just going to go ahead and put it right here. So then it's touching the controller and throw that in there. So now we have power. It's being supplied by the controller, which I can't really get targeted there. And we can use the chest. And we can go ahead and throw any items in here we want. And you can see here that it's using up different different things. It's using up bytes and types. So the way that this works is types is the type of items. So if I take, say, everything out except for, I'm just going to grab something, tiny TNT. So if I throw tiny TNT in here, you can see here I have one type used, right? And that's one stack. But if I give myself a couple more, that's not what I wanted. A couple more stacks, and I go and throw them in here, you can see that it stacks more than 64. And it still only uses one type. The only thing that goes up is the bytes. Now if I take this out, you can't access the chest, right? But where did my mini TNT go? If I put it back, it's still there. What happens is the items are actually stored on this disk, and that's where this comes in, this ME drive. You can put 10 disks in here and store a lot of items on this one block, but you can't access them like a chest, right? If I right click here, the only thing I can get into is the drive. There's another block that we're going to use to interface with this, but I just wanted to show you the difference. So because this has stuff that I really don't want on it, I'm just going to delete all of it and get rid of these. Let's go ahead and pick up our chest, and we'll get rid of that as well. So now that you know how the drives and the chests work, let's go ahead and actually make some storage disks. Now I don't like to start with 1Ks, and I don't need 64Ks. I'm going to start with, let's start with some 4Ks. So we're going to need a little bit of iron, some redstone, glass, pretty easy, and a storage segment. Well, that looks complicated. That's why I said we're going to need basic processors. You know what, for right now I think I will start with the 1Ks until I get automated mining set up. So let me grab those processors that I made earlier and see if we have everything that we need to throw together a 1K. So we have everything here, except for the glass probably. And I'm going to want a couple of these. 4 should be good. And we just need the glass, and I should be able to put together a couple of 1Ks. 2, what am I missing? Iron. I didn't want all of it, but that's okay. And let's make 2 more. So now we have 4 1Ks, and I'm going to go down here and put them in my drive. So now we can store 63 times 4. So a whole bunch of types. What is that, like almost 248? Not quite, it's like 244. So we can store a whole bunch, and we need a way to access this stuff. So what I need to make is an access terminal. Now to make an access terminal, I need a little bit of cable with fluix dust, which is ground up nether quartz, some Surge quartz dust, and this is why I like to save my Surge quartz, and some redstone. So let me get that together and I'll be right back. So I have everything together now, and we should be able to throw it all together. First, we're going to need to make some cabling, which is right here, and fluix dust. I'll go ahead and make a good little bit. Let's make 18 should be good. It is going to use a lot of the nether quartz dust that I had ground up and the Surg quartz, but it's going to be something that we're going to use. And so I should be able to throw this together, and I'm actually going to make 2 of them. And I'll show you why here in just a second. And with the access terminal, I have the MA cable, I have the iron, I have the glass. Maybe it's just not putting it all together. Oh, I didn't make the MA cable. I made the fluix dust. So let's go ahead and 9. Okay, that should be good. And let's go ahead and put all of this together. And we have 1. I thought I made 2. Did I not make 2 conversion? I'm missing iron again. There we go. Lots of iron. 2. So we have 2 access terminals. And the reason that I made 2 is because you have to actually use the access terminal in order to access your items. It is just like it says. So what I'd like to do is I want to put 1 of them right here. And in order to connect it to the rest of my system, I actually have to use cable because it has to be physically connected. So let's see if we can make our way back here. It's right. Yep, that's right. And I'll go ahead and come back here and, well, I guess since I'm here I might as well just mine it up. There we go. And so I have this here, and what I'd like to do is not have inventory problems. And I'm just going to connect this right here and go down this way and straight this way. And I just happen to have 1 torch on me to light it up. And access terminal, go. And that little spinning that it did, that means it's syncing up. So you can see we now have access to our ME system. We don't have anything in it, but we have access. And before I close that up, what I'd like to do, let me pick this back up, is dig straight up this way. And I'm going to take the remaining ME cable, which I'm going to have to make a little bit more, connect it that way. Put 1 terminal here, let it connect up. And so now we have access to our ME system down here. And if I make up a little bit more cabling, I need more glass. Let me cook up some more glass. And what I'm going to do is actually hook this right up here. You can see here we have our cabling. So I'll actually do this off camera, but basically what you just need to do is I'm going to come up here and hook it up right here. So that way I have access upstairs and downstairs. And what you can do is now we can take all of our items. If I didn't have a full inventory, and come down here and I can throw everything in here. And because of the fact that we put a couple of storage disks, we can store, I want my potatoes. we can store everything in our chests into our system. So between this episode and next, because we have hit that wrapping up point, we're actually way over the wrapping up point. I just wanted to finish the build before we wrapped up. I'm gonna go ahead and move everything between this episode and next, and I may end up having to make a couple more storage disks because remember that drive can hold 10. So if I run out of types, I'll definitely be putting more storage disks in there. I hope you guys enjoyed, and with that, I will see you guys later.